1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone! Welcome to episode 7 of Sgtv. This week's small groups generated a lot of interesting discussion about advisory. Take a look.
There's so many advisories that have like 2 to 5 kids in them, and then there's a bunch that are like overloaded. I think there should be more of a focus on like equivalent amounts of people to each advisory.
Immediately once you make a bond with a teacher in high school, you're going to go to their advisory no matter what. So they're never going to put restrictions on you have to stay with this person even if you don't like them.
No, I'm not saying like stay with the person, but I'm saying there should be a restriction on like the amount of students per advisory, not only the max but also the min.
Would they be forced to stay in the advisory because they're at the minimum, and if they leave and don't like it, then they're below the minimum?
What we can use advisors for is actually to get stuff done.
So do you think 20 minutes twice a week is enough time for that?
It'd be difficult to decide whether to add more mandatory time or to suggest
Open up more
to allow like science breaks.
When it comes time to like if I have like an issue with like a grade or like if I have a cut that I don't deserve, those times that I really wish that we had a longer advisory. Otherwise I think that like the 20 minutes is more than enough.
Closeness of the kids in the advisory probably has more of an impact on how successful the advisory is more than the advisor.
If you're one of those students in a really small advisory, you feel probably hard to switch because you feel kind of guilty, and I don't know, I guess it begs the question, should all teachers be advisors? But that's kind of part of being a Parker teacher.
When freshmen first come in, they like are assigned an advisor, but it's really random and really not permanent, and they get to kind of like the first 2 weeks meet all their teachers, see how they're feeling, and then if they want to switch like after the 2 weeks, it's almost like a drop ad period kind of.
In my advisory, I don't restart.
MX goes on for long enough. I don't think it should be like long.
Well, so what kind of things could you do with an advisory day, and how would it work for someone who's in a 3-person advisory or who doesn't really like their advisory? What could they do?
Well, I mean, I don't think you'd have to spend the entire like school day together, but it really depends on what the advisory wants to do. And it's an opportunity for advisors and like the advisees and the advisor to connect. And I think it's either like at the beginning or the end of the year would be extremely important.
Should it be at the beginning or the end? Like, what's more important? Building at the beginning or celebrating? Well, if you had to choose one, is it more important to make that relationship or to like?
The beginning for sure.
I think it's very Parker-esque to have really great relationships with certain teachers, bordering on very personal and close relationships that may be a little inappropriate. So as a student who didn't go here throughout all of middle school, it wasn't something that I grew up in that environment. So for me, it was a little disappointing because I didn't feel like I was personally connected to any one of my teachers in particular. And I think that an advisory can really facilitate that, which is why I think it would be nice if there was a little bit more of a standard, a universal standard, because it's upsetting to have an advisor who doesn't really do much at all during advisory, and then have friends who are there for the full 40 minutes, who go out to breakfast, go out to lunches, play games, have Secret Santa. Like, it's upsetting to see such discrepancies between advisories, and I really regret not having that sort of relationship with a teacher because I think it can do wonders.
He's got a mind full of poison and a body that breaks.
The main concern wasn't the advisory system itself, it was the placement.
And they sort of thought that there should be a survey or like a Match.com sort of thing.
Your relationship with your advisor isn't like dependent on the 40 minutes a week you spend with them.
Different advisors can affect the way you learn if you actually have them as a teacher. How advisors give you cuts for morning X or don't care if you come to morning X.
All advisories should have representation from at least 3 grades.
I don't think it should be made that everyone has to have a cross-grade advisory, because although that's great for a lot of people, it's not for other people, so I think it's important to have this.
We don't want to restrict anyone from joining certain advisories because of gender or age.
They felt that the students of color were specifically put with advisors of color, and this particular student was like upset about it.
The 8th graders were actually talking about how they were kind of excited by the fact that upperclassmen were going to be in their advisories because they get to know them somehow, but if it's just like bumping into like an upperclassman in the hallway, that's so important to me than being in just like studying with them.
That's a good point.
Personally, Margaret drafted in my advisory, and if I didn't know who she was, I wouldn't have picked Smith so easily as a college. But since I knew her and she was in my advisory, I could email her and Facebook her, and it was very helpful.
Like a designated period where like everyone's allowed to like switch advisories, and it's not like there's not as much pressure on it, and so people would feel more comfortable like changing their advisors.
A lot of people thought it'd be really beneficial to have a time that we can plan to go out to lunch together and use advisory in morning as time.
They said like part of the sort of fun of advisory is the fact that like they're all different, and they thought they didn't want to make it so uniform and sort of take away like the flavor of it.
So many different conversations and all so intriguing.
That I'll find you someday, and what I feel but having no words, you'll say.
This coming Friday, student government will be a town hall follow-up to the small groups and the Senate, so encourage your teachers and advisors to attend and participate. And for all you teachers that are watching this, we really want your input as well, so please come and please speak up. And remember that if you have something to say, an announcement to make, or a video to play, get in touch so you can be featured on the next Sgtv. But for now, stay tuned, stay interested, and don't stay silent. From you to me, here's Sgtv.
The night I look for you.